Well, what have you noticed about self-image and anxiety as kids, go from middle school to high school?
I guess it's kind of different. I mean,
Do you think it just linearly goes up? Or do you think even early on, maybe 14, 15-year-olds are able to, gain a measure of control or assertiveness where they don't keep getting more and more anxious? Like, where do you see this phenomenon peaks? Or it doesn't seem to be like that? It just, some younger or more so, some older or more so. Is there any pattern?
I don't know how much of a pattern there is. I think I've never got to like see, students go out from middle to high school, right? But I think as they become high school students, they start to develop that self-image a little bit more, sometimes in a really good way. And they start to feel more confident about themselves and feel a little bit better. And then sometimes it's not so much in that way. And it's kind of on the opposite end. And they kind of feel even more lost than they were when they were in middle school. So I wouldn't say there's like a super specific pattern that I've really noticed, but it's just a little bit of everything across the board.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering again if it just continues, but you haven't seen. What about in boys versus girls? Is there a big difference in different ethnicities, cultures? Like, what do you see as the difference amongst your students?
Yeah, there's definitely a big difference between the males and females for sure. Females are a lot more receptive to the message, I guess you could say, and doing these things just because females in general talk to each other more about their emotions, how they're feeling, while us males, and myself included, a lot of times is kind of bottle that stuff up. We don't necessarily share. I'm not speaking for all males, but a lot of males don't necessarily share with, their friends how they're feeling, or if they're, feeling sad that day, or feeling depressed, anxious, whatever it may be. Whereas I've noticed that the females definitely are a lot more comfortable doing that type of thing. So that's definitely been a big focus of mine, is to really find ways to get males more on board and really specifically just to be more open and talking with their friends. I think that's such a big help instead of just trying to tackle it all by yourself. I'm not saying we should start like group therapy with your friends and everybody go around and, share their most vulnerable moments. But man, just talking about the simplest of things, my grandmother passed last week, and I'm just feeling kind of sad about it, and just be able to share little things about what's going on with you in your life, even if they can't provide you the answers, just being able to like share that with your friends is really helpful. So that's something that I've been thinking and focusing on a lot.
Is there a baseline level of anxiety that's different in boys versus girls, or are they anxious about different things?
It's hard to say, because I think just the girls are more open to admit it, right? The boys aren't as much so to, admitting that, oh, I feel anxious, because it's kind of seen as like this weakness, or, you're as they like to say, like, you're a beta male if you feel that type of way, that's a weakness. And so I think it's pretty similar. Girls might have slightly higher anxiety rates. I mean, I know they do if you look at like the studies and stuff like that. But like I said, I don't know how much I can really take all that stuff to heart, because I don't know if that study is being fully transparent on like the actual, anxiety states of the boys. Because I don't know how many actually admit that. I mean, it's one thing to say it, but it's another to like admit it to yourself. Even if you're just doing like an anonymous survey, it's like, how anxious do you feel? And it's like, oh, if I'm anxious, that's a weakness. Like, oh, I don't feel anxious at all. Like, I have to believe that a lot of that goes around. So I feel like the anxiety levels of males are a lot higher than what they're seeing on these recent studies that we've seen on teen mental health.
Okay. So what do you think is needed to help, large numbers of, middle school and high school kids? Is there a formal program that you're putting together that you're going to syndicate to different schools, or what do you think is needed?
I think, the program that I am doing and working, and I think there's a lot of power. It's hard for me to even talk like about this, because it feels like I'm boasting and talking like I'm the thing, but I think there's a lot of power in just me coming in and sharing and being vulnerable with the students about my most, difficult times in my life in high school. and just sharing that and showing that as I'm not ashamed of that. I find that as a strength that I can do that. I say it all the time. Vulnerability is a superpower, because if you can be vulnerable and you can open up about your past struggles, I've owned that stuff. I've owned it. So it's like, it can't hurt me anymore. And so I've been able to own it. I'm trying to share with the students, especially the male students, that even if you are going through a hard time, even if you are feeling anxious or sad or whatever it may be, you can work through that stuff. You can own it and move forward and not be like, oh, I'm kind of ashamed that I ever felt like that. But for me, it's like, oh, I am like so proud of myself that I was able to go through that and then come on the other side and doing what I'm doing now, whether that's you like speaking to other students or just, accomplishing whatever goals you're trying to go for in life. So I think that's a big thing and I'm not saying like not just me, but just anybody who can relate to the students and show that, vulnerability is not a weakness. Feeling sad or anxious or whatever it may be is not a weakness, but you can overcome these things and that actually becomes your strength.